Happy Friday, everyone. Today we're reading Chapter 6. Yesterday, where we left off, Gregor had just gotten to take a bath after getting kind of some stink off him, but he was also developing a plan to maybe get out of Regalia with Boots. So here's Chapter 6. It's a long one, so we're probably only going to read part of it and then save the other second half for Monday. Gregor scrubbed himself down using a sponge and some gloopy stuff he found in a bowl by the pool. He lathered his hair and even cleaned inside his ears, wanting to get every bit of Overlander smell off him. If he was going to try to escape, he needed to be as indistinguishable from his hosts as possible. On hooks by the pool hung a row of white towels. Gregor couldn't identify the thick woven fabric. Sure not cotton, he muttered. But the towel was soft and absorbed water much better than the thin, worn ones they use at home. He walked back into the changing room, drying his hair, and found his clothes had disappeared. In their place was a neat pile of smoky blue garments. A shirt, pants, and what seemed to be underwear. They were much finer than the towels. The cloth ran silkily through his fingers. What is this stuff? He wondered, slipping into the shirt. He slid his feet into a pair of braided straw sandals and padded out of the changing room. Meredith and Perdita were waiting. "So what happened to my clothes?" asked Gregor. "They have been burned," said Meredith apprehensively. Gregor sensed Meredith was afraid he'd be mad. "It is most dangerous to keep them," said Perdita, by way of explanation. "The ash carries no scent." Gregor shrugged to show he didn't care. "That's cool," he said. "These fit me fine." Meredith and Perdita looked grateful. "After a few days of our food, you will be without much odor, too," said Perdita encouragingly. "That'll be nice," said Gregor dryly. These Underlanders were sure obsessed with his smell. Dulcet emerged from the left side of the bathroom carrying a squeaky clean Boots. She had on a soft rose-colored shirt and a clean diaper made from the same material as Gregor's bath towel. She extended her leg and pointed proudly to the new sandal on her foot. "Sanda!" she said to Gregor. He stuck out his foot to show her his shoes. "Me too," he said. He'd assumed they'd burned Boots' clothes as well. He tried to remember what she'd been wearing in case he had to explain the missing stuff to his mom. One dirty diaper, no loss. One pair of scuffed pink sandals her feet were growing out of anyway. One stained t-shirt. I think it'd probably be okay. Gregor didn't know exactly what he would tell his mom about the Underland. The truth would scare her to death. He'd work out something when they got back to the laundry room, but the sooner that happened, the simpler the story could be. Boots reached out her arms and Gregor took her, pressing his nose into her damp curls. She smelled fresh and a bit like the ocean. "She is well grown," said Dulcet. "Your arms must be tired." She went back into the changing room and came out with some kind of pack. It fitted on his back with straps, and Boots could ride in it, looking over his shoulder. He had seen people carrying kids in especially designed backpacks, but his family didn't have the money for that sort of stuff. "Thanks," he said casually, but he was secretly elated. It'd be a lot easier to escape with Boots in a backpack than in his arms. Dulcet led them up several staircases and through a maze of halls. They eventually wound up in a long room that opened out to a balcony. "We call this the High Hall," said Dulcet. "I think you guys forgot the roof," said Gregor. While the walls were decorated with the greatest care, there was nothing but the black cavern above their heads. Dulcet laughed. "Oh no, it is meant to be so. We entertain here often, and many bats can arrive at once." Gregor imagined the bottleneck 100 bats would cause trying to get in the door downstairs. He could see the advantage of having a bigger landing strip. Vicus was waiting for them by the balcony with an older woman. Gregor guessed she might be around his grandma's age, but his grandma was stooped and moved painfully with arthritis. This woman stood very straight and looked strong. "Gregor and Boots, the Overlanders, my wife, Solivette," said Vicus. "Hey," said Gregor, nice to meet you." But the woman stepped forward and offered both her hands to him. The gesture surprised him. No one else had made any effort to touch him since he'd landed. "Welcome, Gregor. Welcome, Boots," she said in a low, warm voice. "It is an honor to have you among us." "Thanks," Gregor mumbled, confused because she was throwing his prisoner status off balance. She really made him feel like someone special. "Hi, you," said Boots, and Solivet reached up to pat her cheek. "Vicus tells me you are very anxious to return home. It pains me that we cannot aid you immediately, but to seek the surface tonight would be impossible," she said. "The Underland buzzes with news of your arrival." "I guess everyone wants to look at us like we're freaks or something." "Well, they'd better look fast," thought Gregor. But he said, "Well, then I'll get to see some stuff down here." Vicus waved him over to the low wall that ringed the balcony. "Come, come, there is much to view," he said. Gregor joined Vicus at the wall and felt his stomach lurch. He involuntarily took a few steps backward. The balcony, it seemed, hung out over the side of the palace, and only the floor separated him from the dizzying drop. "Do not fear, it is well built," said Vicus. Gregor nodded, but he didn't move forward again. If the thing started collapsing, he wanted to be able to make it back to the high hall. "I can see fine from here," he said, and he could. Regalia was even more impressive from above. On the ground, he couldn't see that the streets, which were paved in various shades of stone, were laid out in a complex geometric pattern, so that the city looked like a giant mosaic. He also hadn't realized how big the place was. It extended out several miles each direction. "How many people live down here?" asked Gregor. "Well, we number 3,000 or so," said Vicus. "More if the harvest reaps are well." 3,000? Gregor tried to get a mental picture of how many people that would be. His school had about 600 kids in it, so 5 times that? "So what are you guys doing down here, anyway?" asked Gregor. Vicus laughed. "We are amazed it has taken you so long to ask." "Well, it is a marvelous tale," said Vicus, taking a deep breath to begin it. "Once, many years ago, there lived—" "Vicus," interrupted Solivet, "perhaps the Dale would go well with supper." Gregor silently thanked her. He was starving, and he had a feeling Vicus wasn't the kind of guy to leave out any details. The dining room was off the high hall. A table had been set for 8. Gregor hoped Dulcet would be joining them, but after tucking Boots in a sort of high chair, she backed up several feet from the table and stood. Gregor didn't feel comfortable eating with her standing there, but he thought he might get her in trouble if he said something. Neither Vicus nor Solivet took a chair, so Gregor decided to wait too. Soon, Luxa swept into the room in a dress that was a lot fancier than the clothes she'd worn in the stadium. Her hair was loose and fell like a shiny silver sheet to her waist. She was with a guy who Gregor guessed was about 16. He was laughing at something she just said. Gregor recognized him from the stadium. It was the rider who'd felt cocky enough to lie down on his bat as they swirled around his head. Another show-off, thought Gregor. But the guy gave him such a friendly look that Gregor decided not to jump to conclusions. Luxa was annoying, but most of the other Underlanders seemed okay. "My cousin, Henry," said Luxa shortly, and Gregor wanted to laugh. Here among all these strange names was a Henry? Henry gave Gregor a low bow and came up grinning. "Welcome, Overlander," he said. Then he grabbed Gregor's arm and spoke in his ear in a dramatically hushed voice. "Beware the fish, for Luxa plans to poison you directly." Vicus and Solivet laughed, and even Dulcet smiled. It was a joke. These people actually, I guess, had a sense of humor. "Beware your fish, Henry," returned Luxa. "I gave orders to poison scoundrels, forgetting you would be dining as well." Henry winked at Gregor. "Switch plates with the bats," he whispered. And at that moment 2 bats swooped into the room from the high hall. Ah, the bats. Gregor recognized the golden bat Luxa had been riding earlier. A large gray bat fluttered into a chair near Vicus, and everyone else took a seat. And we'll stop there. Next up, we'll see how dinner goes. books. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to reading to you on Monday.